Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Alameda Mayor's Town Hall. I'm Sarah Henry, the city's Public Information Officer. Joining us today is Tim Dupuy, the Alameda County Registrar of Voters, and Laura Weisiger, the City Clerk for the great city of Alameda. Please note that participants have been muted. To submit a question for the mayor or our speakers, please use the chat feature. And if you're joining us on Facebook Live, enter your question into the comments and we'll try to get to all of the questions that are posed. All of our town halls are recorded and available on the city's website and our YouTube channel. I'd now like to turn today's town hall over to Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome to all of you who are joining us via Zoom or Facebook Live. It's always great to have you join us and ask such great questions of our guests after they've given their presentations. Today we have a really important topic because it's all about voting. I'm calling this All Things Voting. Your vote is your voice. It is just so important that you exercise your right to vote this November, especially as we all know this is a presidential election year, but there are important measures happening at the state level, county level, and right here in the city of Alameda, as well as candidates. So work your way all the way down the ballot. But there's also been a lot of concern and maybe consternation that's been swirling around, especially about will the U.S. Postal Service be able to handle all the volume, because hopefully you know, but you'll hear more about it, that California is going to an all vote by mail system if you would like to cast your vote that way, but there's other ways you can cast your vote. So I am so excited to introduce you to our guests, and we're so honored to have these two very busy people take time out of their busy schedules to join us. We have the Alameda County Registrar of Voters, Tim Dupuy, joining us. Thank you so much, Mr. Dupuy. And Alameda's own City Clerk, Laura Weisiger, who is just a guru with all of these things and everything else she does for our city, and she's joining us today. And so I am going to ask Mr. Dupuy to start us out, because you know, when you vote, your ballot eventually is going to end up in his office, and that's how it gets counted. And I'm hoping we'll hear a little bit about the mechanics of how that works, because you know, most of us don't see things from your end. So with that, Mr. Dupuy, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we are excited to hear from you.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Mayor. What I'd like to do is share a PowerPoint. So if you bear with me, I'm going to bring that up
Sure.
on the screen
Yeah.
for everybody. And hopefully it will cover a number of the things that you've asked about. So first of all, we do have an election coming up in November that I'm sure we're all aware of.
I'd heard that. Yeah.
You heard that. Let's see if I can get my slide to advance. So just as you mentioned, this election for November is going to be a little bit different. You know, normally we'd be having a polling place election, a one-day election if people wanted to vote in person. We'd have polling places open throughout the county. But because of COVID and the circumstances that we're under, we want to make sure that everybody can vote safely and that they have lots of options. So I'm going to step through a little bit of a timeline here. Back in March, of course, we all know that there was a state of emergency called because of COVID. And then later on in May, our governor announced that we were going to have a different election, but we didn't have all the specifics. Then come June 3rd, we got an executive order that was more specific from our governor that said this is going to be he doesn't want to call it an all vote by mail election, because we want to make sure we know that people have in-person options, but every registered voter is going to be mailed a ballot. So everybody's going to have the opportunity to vote either by mail or in person. For the in-person options, the metrics we were given was to have one drop box for every 15,000 voters. And then we were told we had to have one vote location, which we call an accessible vote location. for every 10,000 voters. And so that executive order was put into law in June 18th by AB 860. And then another thing that happened, which I think addresses some of our concerns about the pace of the mail, is that we by election law have always had to receive the mail 3 days after the election, and if it's postmarked election day or earlier, we count that vote. Well, the legislation further extended that to 17 days. So as long as the mail gets to us within 17 days after the election and the voter has dropped that ballot in the mail on election day or earlier, then it will be counted.
Does that, excuse me, Mr. Dupuy, does that mean it has to have a postmark of November 3rd?
November
is the election,
3rd. Mm-hmm.
or earlier, and then if it has that, it can still be received up to 17 days later?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So we'll be looking at those postmarks.
Okay.
So to compare what the November 2018 election looked like versus the 2020 one that's coming. In 2018, we had around 800 assigned polling precincts. That's 800 places for that one day that people could go vote. In 2020, we're going to have 100 accessible vote locations throughout the county, and they'll be open for 4 days instead of the one day. And also in 2018, you were assigned to a precinct. You had to go to a particular precinct to vote. In 2020, you can go to any of these 100 vote locations and will be able to produce your ballot there. In 2018, we had 28 drop boxes throughout the entire county. And Alameda, I always like to report, was one of our more popular ones. We have to empty the City Hall one every hour on election day.
Wow. Yes, we're voters in Alameda. Wow, that's great.
But in 2020, we're now going to have 66 ballot drop boxes throughout the county. So you can see we're increasing the drop boxes, which have been very popular.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, we had to recruit 4,800 poll workers for that one day. Those are our volunteers that help us run the polls. In 2020, now we have a smaller number of vote centers or accessible vote locations, but we have 1,700 workers per day that we need to run those, about 17 per location. And we're doing really well on that outreach. So our volunteers are really stepping up. And as I said, in 2018, for in-person voting, we were open for one day. Now we're going to be open Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday election day. So for 4 days, if you want to choose the in-person voting option.
Very cool. So just looking at my calendar, starting, oh my goodness, on Halloween, October 31st?
I believe that's October 31st, yes.
You can come dressed as a voter. So Saturday, October 31, Sunday, November 1, Monday, November 2, and Tuesday, November 3, Election Day. Those are all days that you could choose one of those days to go to this
accessible
voting location. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I'm making a distinction between a polling place versus these accessible vote locations because they look a little bit different. And I've got a picture up here of what the polling place looked like. It was a minimum of 600 square feet, and you were assigned to it. It took 6 trained poll workers to work at it, and you would go in and you would get your ballot and vote there. And there was also a touch screen for voters with accessibility needs to be able to vote privately and independently. In an accessible vote location, it's a much larger facility. It's 2,500 square feet or larger. Now we're going to have electronic poll books. So you're able to go into any one of these locations and sign electronically that you voted. And that's how our database is going to get updated instantly. So a voter can't go to another place and vote another time. So you're not signing a paper roster, you're signing an electronic roster. We're going to have 4 touch screens for accessibility needs. we're going to be able to print the ballots on demand. So getting into a little of election jargon, there's a different ballot that's needed for the city of Alameda than a ballot that's needed for the city of Livermore, because you have
Sure.
different local issues.
Right.
When you take a look at all those combinations of different elections, we end up having about 150 different ballot types. So a voter could come in and need any one of those 150 different ballot types in any of the 14 languages that we support. So each one of these vote locations will be able to produce any ballot that a voter might need, so they can go into any of these locations.
So are you saying, Mr. Dupuy, that if a Livermore resident happened to work in Alameda and was maybe worried about not getting back before the accessible voting location closed, they could cast their ballot at an Alameda, city of Alameda?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And this is something new for this election.
Yeah. What are
Yeah.
the hours, by the way?
So the hours, Saturday, Sunday, Monday are 9 to 5, I believe, but check your voter guide when it comes.
Okay.
And then on election day, it's our normal hours, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. when the polls close.
Okay, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And is it, as I remember, because I've been an election worker in the past, that so the last person in line at 8 o'clock, but please don't wait till the last minute to go vote,
Please
people.
don't.
Please don't. But
But yes,
just in case, yeah.
so as you know, since you helped us out, at 8 p.m. you go out and you mark the end of the line, and anybody else who comes is unfortunately out of luck.
You don't want to be that person, right?
No, you don't want to be. And I think we've given a lot of options here for people to
Yeah.
get their vote, because they're going to get their ballot really early, all in hand. And you, if you take a look at this graphic that I have on the right, we're really encouraging people to vote safely. So in these locations, we're going to have people be able to go and drive through rather than get out of their car. If they've got the ballot,
Whoa.
they can just hand it
Oh,
to us, and we'll
over
give them
to the
their I
right.
voted sticker.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, and then we'll also, in the parking lot, we're going to have curbside parking. So if they're willing to stay in their car, we can produce their ballot for them and run it out to the car so they can vote safely in their
Wow.
car, and then drop it
Wow.
off when they're ready.
That's very accommodating. Tell us about what kinds of COVID-19 protections. I mean, I do see that it looks like voting the stations are spaced, but what about those the tablets or the poll books, electronic poll books you mentioned, and touch screens?
So we're going to have all the sanitizing tools in place. We'll be having gloves and the screens and the face shields. We'll be asking the voters to wear masks as they come in if they have to. So all of the protections that we're seeing throughout the community today, we'll have in these facilities. And as I said, we're hoping that this is a last resort, that somebody has to come in to the facility. We're hoping we're giving them many options so they don't actually have to come into the facility. So it's really hopefully a small number of people in the facility itself.
Okay. Thank you. And I know. Do we know where our City of Alameda locations of these accessible voting locations are?
We do. So we have 6 locations.
Ooh, okay, everyone, you're hearing it here first. I actually I got a question last week if we were going to have these locations in Alameda, and I said, oh, we are, and I should have actual information. So 6 locations.
6 locations. So,
Right.
and hopefully I pronounced them all correctly. So South Shore Center, Al Grace Point Church. That's at 1275 Harbor Bay Parkway. Almanac Beer Company, Lincoln Middle School, Island High School, and Alameda High School.
Cool.
And I think we mentioned the drop boxes, but I'll mention them again. You have 2 already, one at City Hall and one at College of Alameda. And we're going to be installing one at the Bay Farm Island Library.
Yeah, actually, I think that we were all talking about it before we went
I think
live.
so, right.
Yeah, so no, so that's good for residents to know. You all know, I think, about the one out in front of, or, you know, on the Oak Street side of City Hall, and maybe you know about the one out of College of Alameda, but now out at the Bay Farm Library, right? But not blocking the stroller parking. This is important.
That's right. We were talking about that.
Yeah. Okay. And I know the one, well, I mean, the one, they're there now. When will the covers start coming off of them? Or is
So
that when? Yeah, okay.
the first day of early voting is October 5th.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
please go on. This is exciting.
Sure. So in general, we're seeing a pretty big uptick, and this is normal around elections in our registration, our voter registration, which is exciting. We're already up to 934,000 registered voters in Alameda County.
Wow.
In 2018, we were at 879,000. We think at the rate that things are going, we might actually hit the 1 million voter mark
I
in
think you
Alameda,
might. Yeah.
which would be the first time ever.
Wow.
Also, we're looking at people who are registering and how they're registering, and we're in the 80% mark for people registering as permanent vote-by-mail voters. So
Hmm.
what's good about that for this election is 80% of our voters were already expecting to receive a ballot in the mail. And so it's really 20% of our voters that this will probably be the first time they're receiving a ballot in the mail. And also exciting, we had 6 additional languages added to our language groups. I have them listed on the slide,
Yeah.
but we're now up to 14 languages that we support in Alameda, including English.
Wow. So can you tell us, do you know by heart what the other 8 are?
Oh, I should have been ready for a quiz.
Aw. Laura
Spanish,
can probably
Chinese,
help.
Vietnamese, let's see,
Tagalog.
Tagalog, and I think I'm missing just one. What's the last one?
Do you
So
do
Korean?
Arabic? Korean, maybe.
perhaps, let me
Yeah.
see. So, but it
So
is a
a lot
total
of
of
details.
14. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. And so you were telling us that when someone comes in to the accessible voting location, they can request their ballot in one of these languages. Is that
That's
correct?
right. Yeah,
Awesome.
any of the supported languages.
Yeah.
We're also able to produce the voter information guide if somebody needs it,
Wow.
and any of the languages and any of the areas that are needed.
That's great. Okay.
So we've talked about a lot about the accessible vote
Mm-hmm.
locations, and this is we have used Southland Mall, we've used South Shore before. These are all
Yes.
very
Right.
popular locations, so we're excited to be there again. And as you said, we have all the protections in place. It does take 18 staff members to staff one of these locations for the 4 days. 17 of our election workers, which are these, I call them volunteers, though they get a
A
stipend,
stipend. Yeah.
but it's volunteer work as far as I'm concerned. And then we have one of our ROV staff members running the place, and that will be for the 4 days.
And then, Mr. Dupree, are you looking to have the same cohort of staff, volunteer election, well, the election workers and the RV staff members over the 4 days as opposed to, are you looking for people who are available for 4 days in a row?
So people can be available for 1 day or 4 days. I'm happy to report the numbers are really looking good, though I would
Oh,
never say,
good.
if you're
Good.
interested, please go to our website and get the information and sign up. But
Okay.
I just checked, and we're at over 4,000 people who have volunteered to help us out. and they've all volunteered to help us out for the 4 days. So
Wow.
it's amazing that people are really excited to help us out with this, and it's just a testament to how our community really is active with elections.
We take voting seriously. That's
Uh,
great to know. But what is that website if someone wanted to go or get more information? Or is that going to be on
AC
the end of your? Yeah, good.
I can tell you right now, it's
Yeah.
acvote.org is our website. And that's going to be where you're going to get all sorts of information. You can look up your voter profile. You can see how you're registered. You can see, your status. You can also look up all of the election information there. You can also go in and volunteer, fill out a form and volunteer to help us out.
Great.
And then this is what an official drop box looks like. Like I said, our little map here shows the 28 in 2018 and now the 66 that we have planned. And as you said earlier, a person from Livermore could drop their ballot off in Alameda if that's where they are, and it will get to us and get counted.
So you would just need to, what would you need to do? Do you need to show identification or how, because they need to find you. Do they need to find you in the system to have
So
a
if you're
ballot?
dropping off your ballot, you just drop your ballot
Just drop
off
it
and
off.
make sure that you've signed the envelope. That's the key, is that you sign
Yes.
the envelope. And my staff, as we receive the vote by mails in the mail, we do a signature check, and then that's how we validate that it's an official vote from that voter, and it gets processed.
Because you're comparing what the signature on the back of the envelope with the signature on file with
Right, we
the
have a
register.
voter database that has all of the signatures. If you filled out one of those physical affidavits and signed it, that signature is in our system. If you registered online, either through the DMV or online, it's going to be the signature that you used with the DMV or with your ID. But we have all of that on file, and
Mm-hmm.
we look for 1 or 2 points of consistency in the signature, and if we see that, then we know that you're a valid voter. If you don't have a signature or we see a problem, we reach out to the voters and we give them a chance to remedy that. Sometimes we see households with 2 voters in it, and maybe they sign the wrong envelope and turn it in. They get them
Oh,
mixed.
got it mixed up, yeah. Although I
We
think it has your name printed on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we still
Yeah,
have
well, I
that
know.
sometimes happen. Uh,
Sometimes we're moving kind of fast, yeah.
and so then when we see that, we reach out to the voter and we ask them to come in and re-sign the envelope. And they have until 2 days before I certify the election to remedy that. So we give people plenty of time to fix any signature problems.
And when do you certify the election? How much after
I
the
have
election is
30
that?
days to certify the
Okay.
election, and I do have those critical dates. December 3rd is the official date for certification.
December 3rd, wow. Um, and then what kinds of time are you expecting? This might not be a fair question, but how long do you think it will take for us to start hearing the first returns from Alameda County?
So that is a good question. I mean, how this works is all of the early votes that we receive in the mail or dropped off in any one of these fashions, we're able to do the signature check on it and get those queued up for tally. I can't tally the vote until 8 p.m. on election night. I can't do the first tally until then, but we're able to process as many of those votes that we get early. It could be 100,000, could be more. Those can be already queued up, and I'll be posting the first results somewhere around a quarter after 8 p.m. on election night when the polls close. It's usually about 15 minutes after 8 or 20 minutes after 8. We try to get those first votes posted for everybody.
So the ones that were the early votes that are all
That's right.
queued up and have had the
Mhm.
signatures checked. Okay.
And in general, we've been pretty good. We've been able to get through most of what we receive by the weekend before the election day. and
Okay.
that's what gets posted. So
Wow.
if you watch your votes as part of that first batch, get your vote in early. I guess another thing, because there has been so much concern about the mail, and if you do use the mail to send it to us, we have, as a state, we have a new system in place called ballot tracks. And you can either go to the Secretary of State's website or our site, acvote.org, and you can track your ballot as it goes through the post office, and you'll be alerted when it gets to us. So you'll know that your ballot has gotten to the registrar's office.
Oh, wow. How does someone do that?
So you can come to our website and
Mm-hmm.
the instructions are there, or you can
Instructions
go
are
to the
there.
Secretary of State's website. Believe theirs is called Where's My Ballot? And you can sign up for it. And like I said, you'll get all of that tracking information either emailed to you or texted to you, whatever your
Okay.
choice is.
Okay, great. So then that gives you some peace of mind um, that um, you to find out, and then I guess what to do if for some reason you're not seeing your ballot moving through the system.
And if you do have an issue with that, you think that there's a problem, you can either contact my office and we'll research it and remedy it, or we can produce another ballot for you. And what we do is we basically cancel the one that you're not able to find, so that you have a valid ballot. We want to make sure people only vote once,
Right.
and we have safety precautions in place for that. Something else to know is that we do have a last day to register to vote, and let's see, do I have that date? Last day to register to vote is October 19th, but in
Okay.
California, we have same-day registration. So if it didn't make that deadline, and we want everybody to register to vote before then, but if for some reason you missed that or you moved in between, you can show up to one of the accessible vote locations and you can same-day register and vote that day.
And do you cast a provisional vote? Is that how it works, or
The technical term is a conditional voter
conditional?
registration.
Okay.
It goes into an envelope and it does get processed. It doesn't get processed immediately, but it will get processed as part of our vote count because we have to go through our due diligence to get you to be a registered voter before we go and count that ballot.
That's great. Well, and I think I bet you want to just encourage people to not wait till the last minute if
Please
at
don't.
all possible, because when you're saying you anticipate you might get up to 1 million registered voters by election day, that's a pretty formidable number. Are you hiring or bringing on temporary workers in your office to process
Oh,
elections?
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're a pretty small office during the non-voting times. We're under 50 people, and
Wow.
but during election time, I like to say we become the largest department in the whole county because we end up having 4,000 volunteers for the election days, and internal staff, we go up close to 400 employees between our warehouse workers and the people who are going to be picking up the mail from the drop
Yeah.
boxes and so on, and just handling and sorting through all of this and doing all the signature check. It's a heavy lift to get it all done within the 30 days.
It sounds enormous. And before we go over to hear some local intel from our city clerk, Laura Weisinger, I just want to show this postcard that presumably many of you, if not all of you, have received from the U.S. Postal Service. We were talking, and we did invite the U.S. Postal Service to join us today, but this has been kind of a tumultuous time for that agency, and they didn't realize how warm and fuzzy we really are here in Alameda, and that they could have trusted their representative with us. But in any event, we don't have a USPS representative, and we love the Postal Service. But this postcard went to people, nationwide, and some of the information isn't specifically accurate for California. Mr. Dupuy, do you want to just go over the distinctions, I think, in those last three. It does say rules and dates vary by state. And thank you, Sarah Henry, for putting up in the chat room. I saw that you have included the Track My Ballot, acvote.ballottracks.net, and lots of other good information. But Mr. Dupuy, what would be some just distinctions for the request your mail-in ballot at least 15 days before election day?
Right. So if people have received the postcard, and I'm going to agree with you, Mayor. We work very closely with the post office. They're great partners.
Great partners.
You know, we review their process with them. We show them what envelopes we're having. They know the importance of getting the vote to us. So I just want to first start by saying the U.S. Postal Service is a wonderful partner with us. This postcard went out nationally, and so it is really, it's more generalized. But for California, I always like to point out, so one of the things they say is they ask you to make sure you get your absentee ballot at least 15 days before election. Well, every voter is going to be mailed their ballots in California long before the 15 days. So we'll be mailing out our ballots 29 days before the election. Hopefully people will start receiving it by October 5th in the mail. So they should start looking right at the beginning of October. They should start seeing those ballots showing up. It also talks about putting the proper postage in California. It's all postage paid, so you don't have to put a stamp on it. It will get to us. And then it also says that we recommend that you get your ballot in the mail at least 7 days before Election Day. Well, I guess I wouldn't discourage that, but if you
Don't
do get,
procrastinate.
but if you do drop off your mails in the box on Election Day, it will get postmarked. It will get to my office. I have 17 days to receive it, and I believe the post office will get all the mail to us before 17 days. So it will get to us. It will get counted.
Thank you. That's great information. And did you have anything further in your presentation?
I think just that if you are interested in seeing where all the locations are and how we're doing on installing, we do have a working with the community section on our website, so you can see in real time how we're doing on installing the drop boxes and where the AVLs are.
Okay.
And then I just think I have a thank you. So anyway, I do thank you. So if there are questions, I can definitely stick around to answer them.
We'd love that. And we're going to hear from Laura Weisinger next, and then we will go to questions. But yes, we are thrilled to have by the way, the Postal Service does get the highest rating of any federal government agency, but like with a 90% approval rating. And trust me, all of us elected officials would love to have 90% approval ratings. But another one who probably has a 90% approval rating or better is our wonderful City Clerk, Laura Weisinger. So Laura, what do Alameda voters need to know? What's new and different this year? What tell us?
Sure.
Enlighten us. And
I
welcome.
didn't do a PowerPoint,
That's
but
okay.
I wanted to point out that you know, today is an example of what the city's trying to do to help get the word out, but the registrar and the Secretary of State and, you know, the Postal Service with maybe their not so completely perfect postcard have been trying to get the word out. So the registrar sent out, you know, this lovely mailer to everybody. So hopefully people didn't, you know, they actually read through this, and, you know, it's another way that people are trying to get the information out and tell you what's going to happen. So it's been great, and we will continue to do effort here at the city level to try and get the word out. For the city election, the city of Alameda has 2 council member seats, the auditor and treasurer, and 2 charter amendment measures. So those are the Alameda specific things that you will see on the Alameda ballots. We went over where the accessible voting locations are. And I wanted to point out to everybody that those drop boxes are 24-hour drop boxes. So if you're a night owl or if you're a really morning person, you know, you don't have to wait for the hours of the accessible voting location. and you can get out there and drop your ballot right in those secure drop boxes. I wanted to tell people what my voting plan is, because I thought, you know, I'm a voter too. And so the day I get that ballot in the mail, I'm going to sit down that night. I'm going to go through my whole ballot. I have most of it planned out ahead of time, but you know, maybe there's a couple more things I need to research, and I'll finish up those. And I'm going to mark my ballot. I'm going to put it in my envelope, and I'm going to sign that envelope right away, because you really, really, really need to sign that envelope. That helps tremendously. I'm going to come to City Hall the next day, and I'm going to walk to that drop box right in front of City Hall, and I'm going to put it in that drop box. And that way I know my ballot is in, it's secure, the county is going to get it, and I'm going to be in that first batch that gets counted, and I'm not going to make the pressure on the registrar. Anything anybody in the public can do to help take all that pressure off the registrar, who's working so hard to tabulate all our ballots, get any issues resolved. Because, hey, what if my signature, I registered to vote a long time ago. What if my signature is so different that they can't validate it? I want to give them time to resolve it. And so that's my voting plan. And I think anybody who's out there, I would highly encourage you to do something similar. You know, don't procrastinate. Don't put it off. Don't wait to go to the AVL the day when you've piled the, you know, ballot in the mail somewhere and it's ended up at the bottom of something you can't find anymore, or you accidentally put it in the recycle bin with a bunch of newspapers, or, you know, whatever can happen. We don't want that to happen. So my biggest, you know, go, help the registrar, help us all get your ballot in. So that I just wanted to, you know, really point out what my voting plan was, to give people an example of how they can do it and how they can feel good about it. You know, you can also put it back in the mail, because we know the post office will take good care of it, but those drop boxes are direct to the registrar, and, you know, they are putting more and more of them out there, and they're super convenient, and they come by and they get them, and on the regular basis. And like Tim and we were talking about before, the registrar always has to pick up the mailbox and the drop box in front of City Hall multiple times because it gets so full.
Right.
And it's nice to see the slew of people constantly walking in and dropping it there. So it's a very popular spot, and we will have one out at Bay Farm and then the college one. And if you have any trouble finding locations, that's another great thing that's on the registrar's website. They have direct maps and pictures, and it's very clear, and it helps you find it if you know, are thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to find these boxes. So yeah, and definitely we also have, I should have mentioned earlier, we also have a school board candidate present on this right now, and so there are also all school board.
Three openings on the school board.
And I should have mentioned that earlier,
yes,
so I just saw that and thought I'd mention that. But
yeah. Get all the way down the ballot, people.
Yes, it's going to be
local
long, but
elections are important. Yeah, but as Laura, as you were saying, if you spread out your materials and whatever you want to refer to on your kitchen table or wherever you want to spread them out, you can do that in the leisure of, you know, your home and not be rushing. And also, Mr. Dupuy, I was going to ask you, with the accessible voting locations, probably in times of COVID, you will be limited to how many people can be inside at a time. Is that correct?
That's right. So as I showed in the slide, we're going to have options for you to vote safely outside of the facility. But if you do need to come in, we will only be able to bring so many in. So we will have a queuing system and a way to call people in to keep the numbers limited, but also keep people spread out outside safely, so that we can handle that if we do get a crowd. Hopefully we don't, but if we do have a way to do it safely.
To do that, that's great. And then Laura, lastly, how many registered voters do we have in Alameda?
We are just shy of 50,000 now. So, I mean, we are right up there. I'm guessing we'll probably make it over 50 for this, which is the highest it's ever been in my 23 years here. So we are very, as we've said throughout the whole thing, we're a very active voting community, which is awesome.
I just looked, you're at 50,999.
There we go. We just
could I get one more person to please register now so we can get it up to 51,000? Wow. Well, we'll start taking predictions for how high we can go. And as I have said for months now, 2020 is a year like no other, but I'm looking for a strong finish. So, Laura, is there anything else you want to add before we take questions? Sarah says they're stacking up the questions out there.
No, that was my main little blurb to cover.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask quickly. If, say, someone comes to put their ballot in one of the drop boxes and finds it's just jam full, how can they let you or the registrar? What should they do?
Oftentimes people would let us know because we're right at City Hall and
City
they'd
Hall?
walk up. But if City Hall is still closed,
These days, yeah.
I doubt they'll have that option. So we actually, as staff, kind of started going out and checking it, to try and
Okay,
see if, it
great.
was making sure. And we would call the registrar. We have very nice direct links to people to work with, but you can also reach out directly to the registrar's office and they will get someone out there. They send people out super speedy. And
Okay.
we've always appreciated their responsiveness on getting people out and getting them
Yeah, no, that's great to
picked up.
know. All right. Well, thank you both so much for the great information, and stand by because I know we have some great questions. We always do.
Yeah, we do. The first question is asking about the timing for publicizing voting results. So after the first batch is reported at 8:15 or so on election day, what does the timeline look like for publicizing voting results throughout the election?
So we will be receiving the ballots in, at 8 o'clock. We close down the polling locations, and so, or the accessible vote locations. So we'll be running those votes in as quickly as we can. I strive to update about every 30 minutes, but the issue is it all depends on how fast those first votes get to us physically after we close the polls. But once we get a regular stream in, we'll be striving, I keep emphasizing, striving to get it updated about every half hour. After Election Day, our next update will probably be Thursday after Election Day, and then we'll be basically close of business around 5 o'clock each day. We'll be updating the website with the tallies.
Great. The next question is asking about the drop boxes, and are they guarded 24 hours a day?
So they are not guarded. They are drop boxes that are essentially certified for elections. The way that they work is, and how the ballot drops into it, the way that they're secured and fastened to the cement is all have been approved. And then, as Lara said, I have crews going out in pairs. We have a chain of custody approach to how we empty these drop boxes. 2 people need to be there to empty it, so that we have 2 people picking them up, locking it up, and bringing those ballots securely to our office so that we can process them. So we can see exactly where that batch of ballots has been as we bring them through the process.
Great. So somebody's asked if people can go around and pick up neighbors' ballots and drop them in the box or mail them for them.
Right. So in terms of somebody bringing in ballots for somebody else, there's a spot on the envelope where it says that you can let somebody do that for you. So there's some information that needs to be filled out on that. But we do have people that take their families' ballots and drop them in the ballot box, and we'll pick them up and process them.
And who has to sign the envelope?
It's the person that, it's the information about the person who's being delegated to pick everything up.
But the voter still has to sign it themselves.
The voter still has to sign the envelopes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then there's the certification, or what is it, from the person who's delivering.
Right.
I'm trying to find it. Sorry, I go through all of these questions, but I saw, here, about the signatures. So somebody asked, what if the signature doesn't look like the one on file? How will the person making the signature know that there's a problem?
So once it gets to us, as I said, we really want to err in the favor of the voter. So we're looking for 1 or 2 points of consistency. For example, I've been, since I was a teenager, been making my T a certain way and my name Tim. And so that it's changed a little bit, but it's you can see the consistency. And that's what we're looking for. If the signature is drifting, we'll count the vote if we see those points of consistency, but we'll let the voter know that we're seeing a change in their signature, and we'll ask them to fill out another registration form so that we can get a new signature on file. If it's so dramatically different we can't find those points of consistency, we'll reach out to the voter and we'll have them come in and we'll figure out how to remedy that. That might mean that they'll have to re-register and get us a new signature so that we can validate it. But we absolutely err in the favor of the voter, and we're looking for those points of consistency, just one or two.
Great. Is the drive-through service available at all the Alameda accessible polling places?
Yes, the drive-through service is. And what I didn't have on my slide presentation is we're calling it the drive-through drop stop tour throughout this time. And we're going to publish what our tour looks like, but we're going to be going out throughout the community at different times in the calendar and having a pop-up drop stop for people to drop off their ballots.
Very cool.
So in Alameda too?
Alameda will be part of it, yes.
Very
Right.
part of the tour. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to be on the tour. Yes.
Sign us up, buy us a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens if you lose your ballot?
If you lose your ballot, you'll want to let our office know, and there's a couple things that you can do. So we will cancel the ballot that you've lost, and we'll make sure that you haven't already voted. So we'll make sure that people aren't using this as a way to vote twice. But we'll cancel that ballot. And then we can either mail you the ballot if it's early enough. We can email you a new ballot. We have a ballot will call in our main office, so we can have it ready for you if you're willing to drive in, and we'll hand it to you so you have it and you can vote it at that time. Or you can show up at one of the accessible vote locations. If you just didn't have enough time, you can come in, and all of what I'm telling you, we can do at the accessible vote location as well. So we'll get you a ballot so everybody gets a chance to vote.
And Alameda's kind of fortunate that the registrar's office is right next door in downtown
So
Oakland. So it is
close.
kind
Yeah.
of easy
Right.
for Alameda residents to get there. And
Zip
pick it up.
over. We're not in Livermore. So
No,
that's-
it's not as long of a drive.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
Mr. Dupuy, I think you answered this one already, but will you continue to pick up ballots daily from the drop boxes?
Yes. In some cases, if we're seeing that the drop boxes are getting filled even faster, we'll send more people out more than once a day.
And
Excellent.
but after election day, the drop boxes will be
At
closed.
8 p.m. on election night, the drop boxes get locked. So
Okay.
no more votes can be dropped in the boxes after 8 p.m. on election night.
Don't wait till election night, everybody.
Don't wait till election night. Yeah.
Can people still sign up to volunteer at a polling place? And if so, when is the last day they can sign up?
We are always recruiting, so almost all the way up to election day. It's just a couple days or so before election. I will say we're doing really well on our recruiting, but we always could use more, especially if you're a bilingual voter in one of the languages we support. We're always looking for those bilingual language volunteers. So really, we're recruiting all the way down to the last minute. So
Well,
again, hopefully you wouldn't wait till the last minute, but
don't procrastinate again. But one of the things that we've heard with COVID, seniors are, shouldn't be out exposed to a lot of people. And I know a lot of your volunteers over the years have been seniors at the polling places. So are you looking for students, or that problem is just solving itself?
well, we absolutely love having the student poll workers. We have a student poll worker program. If there's some requirements, but if you're 16 years and older, the student poll worker program is fantastic.
Cool.
So if we have some students that want to sign up, this is a great opportunity to see how the election process works. So absolutely, let the young people, we want to have them come out. As you said, we know that we know which population is vulnerable, and we need to be cognizant of it. I was very concerned coming out of March as we were going into the pandemic that this would have a huge impact on our participation. Right now we're at about 4,000 volunteers already, and it's just
Wow.
been amazing to see the community step up and want to volunteer. So again, I would never say
No.
it's good enough, but
Yeah.
please volunteer.
Right.
But it hasn't turned into the problem I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the pandemic, which, knock on wood,
Yeah.
hopefully they stay with us and step up. But we can always use more.
Yeah, we want you to have a deep bench, but that's
That's right.
really lovely to hear. And we're finding that in Alameda too. People just are so community minded and they want to make a difference. And there's so many important ways to do this, and this is certainly one of them. But I will talk it up among our high school students too. We've got some really active ones. You have to be 16 or older.
Yeah,
we
that's great.
really like our young, soon-to-be voters. I mean, I guess I'll put a plug
Yeah.
in California now. We also have for these young people that they can pre-register.
That's right.
And so if you're 16, 17-year-old, you can pre-register, and when you are old enough to vote, it will automatically happen, and you'll get that ballot.
That's a good point to bring up. Yeah, I will.
That's great.
I will help amplify that message. What else have you got, Sarah? We're coming to the end
I
of
just
our
have I just
hour.
have one more question, and I'll just say that I'm one of the 4,000 people that signed up to work at the polls, and it
Oh,
was
good for you.
very
All right.
easy,
Yeah.
super easy process, all online, a couple quick clicks, and I was all signed up. So thank you for making that process very easy to do. Okay, the last question that I have is for the number that you had put up on the screen of people that are currently registered in Alameda County. When was that number taken in terms of trying to get to the 1 million?
We're
Oh,
competitive here too. Alameda's going to put you over the top.
Well, my team put the slide deck for this presentation together just this week, so it's very recent. But
Great.
for those people that are really watching the data and watching it move, we have a whole section on our website with all the different stats on our registration, and you can see it real time as of the day. So we update it every night, and you can see the current data.
And I wanted to just ask a couple of questions that I've had or heard asked before, which is, what if you don't have a permanent address? As we all know, we have an unsheltered population in our county, in our city. So what happens if you don't have a permanent address? How can you vote?
Well, so you don't need a permanent address. What we do need is basically a cross street, where you're essentially, where you live. And if that's in a homeless place, well, it's what are the closest cross streets that we can call your home? And then if there's a way for us to mail a ballot to you. So oftentimes the homeless are still receiving their benefits in some way, so they're getting it mailed somewhere. If they can give us that address, we can get it to them. If they're not able to do that, then they can come into one of these accessible vote locations, and based upon the cross streets, we can validate them as a registered voter and get them a ballot in real time.
Great. Sarah, would you happen to know, this is really putting you on the spot, but our day center for our unsheltered folks that's open out at Alameda Point, and I think is going to start being open 7 days a week, is that also a location where people can receive mail?
I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
not
look
sure, but
into
we'll definitely.
We'll look into that. And then what if someone doesn't receive their ballot in the mail? You've mentioned that we should be getting them around October 5th. I imagine they might be being mailed out in waves. But what if, say, by October 12th, you haven't received a ballot?
So certainly contact my office, and then we will figure out how to remedy it in the most convenient way. If possible, if you'd like it mailed to you, we'll mail you the new ballot. Or as we said earlier, you could come into my office and we can have it ready for you, whether it's will call or in real time printed out.
Okay. And when you say to contact your office, is that by going to the acvote.org? Is that it?
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
acvote.org, and all of the different ways you can get a hold of us are out there on the
Okay.
website, including calling the office.
I bet
Um,
our city clerk could even help um, to help people navigate that maybe.
Oh yeah, we always give out the registrar's address regularly to people. They call our office first.
Yeah, yeah, they call you
Pass
for
them along and
Sarah, you were going to say?
Well, just I know that there's the tracking tool, so then you can see where your vote is. But will you see? I guess it'll. So you'll see if you sign up, like your ballot's been mailed to you. Like, will it tell you all the steps along the way, or will it just tell you that it's been received?
It will tell you all the steps along the way.
Oh, good.
Oh,
So if
even
you,
that it's been mailed to you?
the Secretary of State said that on a call yesterday, so I'm
Okay.
going with it.
It's a pretty good source. All right. Wow. Okay. So you can go and see okay, that's
Yeah, the Secretary of State is promoting it as "Where's my ballot?" And so I think that's how they have it labeled on the Secretary of State site.
yeah.
Yep, I just
Okay.
found the link. I guess it's the same link, but it's where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov.
Okay. All right. Wow, this has been fascinating and so informative. Sarah, did we get all of our questions answered that
We
came
got them
in?
all. That was great.
And what about our wonderful guests? Do you have any last words of advice or just anything you want to share?
vote
Uh,
early.
I
Vote
was going to
early.
say, I was going to let Laura say it, but yes, please vote early, get your vote in. We do see a trend towards people liking to get their ballot in the mailed to them, but they like to drop it off on
Yeah.
election day.
we like to have it both ways, Mr. Dupree. But you know, I was pleased. Last Sunday, I was reading the Chronicle, and John Diaz, who's the editorial page editor for the San Francisco Chronicle and an Alameda resident, wrote that his goal for the editorial board is to have all of their recommendations, their endorsements done, completed by the time your ballot arrives in the mail. And he just contrasted how a decade ago they didn't hustle so much because they knew people requested their ballots, but it was a smaller by mail, but it was a smaller percentage, and you know most people were election day voters. But I think we all think this year is going to look different because people are concerned about going into places around other people, although I can tell that you're putting all the safeguards in place. But I think that there is going to be more interest in the vote by mail, and then you know we just don't want people to be worrying about, oh, my ballot won't safely get there. So again, just to reiterate what County Registrar Voter and the City Clerk have said, you can just use the county drop boxes. They are there in 3 different locations now, 24/7, as Sarah pointed out. And you can also go to one of our accessible voting locations. I'm trying to figure out if I think that the Almanac Beer Company is going to be the most, but I don't think they're giving samples, people, but will be the most popular. But they're spread across the island. That's great. And then so you can do, but you don't have to wait till election day. You can start on Halloween, and you can. I don't think they're giving out candy either. But anyway, they and then you can certainly use the mail, but again, it's always wise not to wait till the last minute. But again, this is the state of California where Governor Newsom has mandated that your ballot, as long as it's postmarked by or before Election Day, has 17 days after Election Day to be counted, to arrive and be counted. So thank you all for such great information. Everyone out there, I think you tuned in because you understand what an important civic responsibility this is. So just continue to do all the things to stay safe so we get past this COVID epidemic. Wear your mask whenever you leave the house over your nose and mouth, and stay 6 feet away from people who don't live in your same household. Wash your hands frequently. And that's not just me, it's the chair of the Federal Reserve, the head of the CDC. They're all saying that is the single most effective way that we're going to stop this pandemic. And in Alameda County, we are starting to see a downward trend in our new cases. So that's great news. Our positivity rate has gone down. So just keep doing what you're doing. And thank you so much to our wonderful guests for joining us. Great work. Thank you, Sarah, for putting this all together. Great to see everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy this clean, fresh air.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tim.
Great.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Marilyn.
Lovely to
Okay.
meet you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Amy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.